There we go. That's a little better. Uh, I wish every day could start with a soundtrack. It's amazing the talents we learn when we go through crisis. And I have an incredible team of 17 women, and we have a DJ, a really good DJ. And so thank you once again, Vivian, for the amazing soundtrack to get everybody upbeat to start our TL Talk. Um, Firstly, I want to thank those that have joined us once again and who are tuned in to listen to our 11th TL Talk. I started this on the 17th of April with no big dreams. My idea was just to get some friends united, some leaders in the industry to get a voice of positive energy and optimism. And now we've had over 15,000 viewers joining us and gathering to get a little taste of some upbeatness that I think we need more than ever. And I can't start this panel without taking a moment to just acknowledge what's happening in the world today, what's happening in the United States, but what's happening all over the world, because the incidents that we're living, the moment that we're living affects us all. It's as humankind, this is a moment that we all have to have hope. We all have to, be strong and offer empathy and love and harmony and just, make our voices heard. So I just wanted to start by making this statement. These are very important times, and I am very fortunate to have this community, and we're united, we are stronger, and so this is important. So if you're joining us, if you're a travel agent, an IC, a tour operator, a DMC, a hotelier, if you're in the events business or in the food and beverage industry or airlines, thank you for taking the time to join us. It's so special. I've had recently two huge acknowledgements that meant so much to me. I recently had a university teacher in Brazil tell me that they've made these TL Talks part of their curriculum. So the students have to tune in, they have to listen, because this is a way of them learning, taking, listening to wisdom, and more than anything, positivity. And we also had two business owners that are making this part of their management strategy, having their teams tune in. So huge, this is very important to me. For those that do not know me, my name is Tina Lira. I am the founder of TL Portfolio, which is a PR and representation business with offices in North and South America, and a team of 17 amazing women. I am Brazilian. I grew up in Mexico. I studied in Switzerland. I had an amazing experience living in Asia, in Singapore. My mother's Czech. My dad is American, so I am a US citizen. So in one way or another, I think I connect with pretty much everybody that could be listening to us. So again, it's a global universe, and we're all united. So again, thank you so much. I wanted to go ahead and introduce our panel, and I'm completely honored to have all of you join us. I'm going to start with maybe a less familiar face, who I'm very proud to have join us, Adriana Cavalcanti. Adriana is the advisory board president of WTM Latin America. She's had an amazing career and 27 years with Air France and KLM prior to her current position. She's a driving force for women. She's an example of an incredible professional, and I'm very fortunate to call her a new friend. And I thank Eric Sadal for making this introduction. And so these are one of the silver linings and everything we're going through. So thank you, Adriana, for joining us.
Thank you, Tina. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
Thank you. Another new friend that I'm happy to have met, Carolyn Kremins, is the president of Skift. I am a huge fan of Skift, and now a huge fan of Caroline. Skift is the leading travel media authorization focused on defining the future of travel. Airlines, hotels, destinations, cruises, startups, technology, and much more. Caroline has been recognized with numerous awards, Advertising Agents Launch of the Year. 5 brands under her leadership earned a place in the Adweek's prestigious Hot List Award, which is a feat accomplished by no other publisher. She's been recognized as Team Leader of the Year by Media Industry Newsletter, and named one of Folio's 40 industry innovators with impact. So thank you, Carolyn, for joining us. And I have to thank Jack Ezon for connecting us. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you and staying connected from here on. So thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
A dear friend, thank you. A dear friend, somebody I admire hugely, and I'm sure half of the world does, Priscilla Alexander, founder of Protravel. Priscilla founded Protravel in 1984 and built it to one of the largest travel agencies in the world, I would say, with offices in the US and Europe. She had up to 22 offices and around 800 employees. The first premium member of the American Society of Travel Agency, AFTA. With $900 million in annual sales, she sold Protravel in 1914. As a small bracket, 2014. 2014 was also a very important year. It was the year she slept over. I had Priscilla slept over. She slept over in 2014. So this is a very important year. And I'll keep that as a side story. She also served as advisory board member to numerous, if not all, travel boards across the industry. She's recognized by Travel and Leisure and their A-list and in Forbes 25 most influential women in travel. She received the Travel Weekly Lifetime Achievement Award in 2009 and Virtuoso's Lifetime Achievement Award in 2014. So going back to that 2014 story, I have to share because it's unique. I attended in 2014 Virtuoso Symposium. It was starting my career as a director, and there was the goddess of travel, Priscilla Alexander. Everybody needed to know her because that's where it all happened. And so I was starting in the industry, and I'm looking for her. We were on this cruise ship going nowhere because it was just a bunch of hoteliers, and I kept bumping into her, and it was great. And we were building a relationship, and I'm thinking, yes, this is going to work. My career is done. I know Priscilla. It's fantastic. And after this Virtuoso Symposium, she was going to see a property in Turks and Caicos, where I lived at the time. And we're at the airport, and the flight gets delayed, and the flight gets delayed. And suddenly I'm looking at the time, and I'm thinking, this flight's never going to take off. Turks and Caicos Airport is closed, and I thought, oh my God. And there's Priscilla. And we were chatting, and I thought, I had a home. My parents live in Miami. I thought, obviously, I'm sure the owner of Protravel does not need a place to stay. I mean, if any hotel wants to host anybody in the world, it's Priscilla Alexander. Well, there we go. I don't know what happened. The universe conspired. And next thing you know, Priscilla, there was no hotels in Miami. It was fully booked. And I walked up and I said, do you want to sleep over? I have an extra room. And therefore, she slept over. We had a sleepover. It was fantastic. So Priscilla, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And without further ado, I am very honored to have Francois Delahaye joining us, COO of the Dorchester Collection, an icon in our industry with over 30 years of experience. He oversees a portfolio of top luxury hotels in Europe and the United States, also general manager of the icon Plaza Athénée in Paris, awarded Manager of the Year in 2013 by the European Hotel Management Association, and Hotelier of the Year by Virtuoso. I have to thank my dear friend Puri for connecting us. I am honored to have you here. Thank you so much. And I have actually a little story that I have to also thank Ed Mady. In 2012, I was selected to be in I was considered to be regional director of sales and marketing for both the Beverly Hills and the Bel Air Hotel. And I went through a month of interviews. I finally was invited to go to Bel Air and Beverly Hills. And I went through millions of interviews. And finally, I was at the office of Ed Mady. And there he is staring at me. And he said, Tina, we're considering this position. I have a question. What are your other options? And I said, you know what? Puri actually at the time had given me the idea of opening my company. And I said, I'm thinking of opening maybe my company. He said, tell me about it. And I think I was overly passionate about the idea of my company. And he said, I have one question. Is there anything I can offer you that will be as exciting as opening your own company? And I looked at him and I said, no, sir. And he said, thank you so much for coming. Good luck in your company. That's how I opened the portfolio. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's an honor to have you. And without further ado, I wanted to ask you all the same question, and then I'll go around and so everybody can answer. What is your favorite moment in these last few months of quarantine? Because in the midst of all this chaos that we're living, there is always a silver lining. There's always a moment of laughter. There's always a lesson that we learn, or that it could be personal or professional. And I'd love for you to share that with us just briefly. And I'll start with Adriana.
Hi, thank you, Tina. Thank you for this invitation. Hello, everyone. Hello, Priscilla, Francois, and Carolyn. It's a pleasure to be with you today. So my greatest moment during this crazy experience called pandemic and coronavirus is that I had the opportunity to connect with people that were inaccessible to me before, like Bill Gates. No, I'm joking, but almost. And I also could reconnect with people that are or were very important to me. I think this is the best lesson that I take from this moment.
I agree. And here we are doing exactly that. So I couldn't agree with you more. Exactly my feeling. Carolyn, how is this quarantine moment for you?
Well, everything that we knew is thrown out the window, right? What we're living through right now is a whole new way of life. And I have to say, just everything, we have a new reality. I don't go to an office anymore. I'm not living on a plane every week. I'm going to funerals and birthday celebrations on Zoom. But I have to say that I've become aware of things that I haven't been aware of before. And I just feel like I'm appreciating everything so much more. I was fortunate to escape New York City. I'm here in the country. And I'm spending really, really precious time with my family. I have a 25-year-old daughter and a 21-year-old daughter, and also my husband, who I'm married to for 28 years, who happens to be a professionally trained chef. So I'm eating very well and also drinking very well. but I just have to say that, I realize, just like the connection, little things like, listening and hearing the birds in my backyard that I never heard before, or taking long walks, or, just not running as hard as I used to. And then, out of disruption comes things like this, a conversation, with new friends, which I didn't realize there's sleepover parties in my future, but new friends from all over the world, in Paris, South America, all over. And this is something I wouldn't have done before because I was so time constrained. But now there are new opportunities like this that we get to have these global conversations and perspectives, and it's really special. So thank you, Tina, for having me.
No, thank you. Priscilla.
Before I tell you my moment, just to add on to your story, Tina, for years, I kind of milked that story. But anytime somebody would say to me something, have you ever met with Tina? I said, well, I really never spend much time, but we have slept together. And then they would and I left it at that.
If you milked it, imagine me. Like, I slept with Priscilla Alexander. It's like, better than Tom Cruise in this industry.
I'll tell you my special moment, which is probably understandable in the last few months. Early May is my birthday. Every year it comes at that time. Of course, as you get older, it seems to come much more furiously and more often. Before you finish one, the next one is there. And we always have a big celebration, whether it's on my birthday or thereabouts, with my 4 daughters, 4 son-in-laws, and 11 grandchildren, and no one ever misses a birthday. It's a lot of fun for them. It's a good excuse for everyone to be together. And of course, this year we're scattered, even though some live close, but we don't even know each other anymore. So they prepared a whole thing on Zoom for my birthday, and each household did a different kind of a thing. And they all sang as it went from one to another. And of course, one of my very adept techie grandchildren put it all together. And the music that they used was Everything Gonna Be All Right. And was the song. And they each in their own household did different acts, from singing in the shower of one, and one guy woke up one morning in her pajamas still, until a few of them did carpool karaoke singing.
Cool.
It was fabulous. And of all the great birthdays I've had, with dinners that were in places that people would dream of going to, and we've also been away on some of my birthdays. So we've had some spectacular moments that we've used my birthday as the excuse to be together. this will be the most memorable for me, the most.
Wow.
And it smile to my face. It was funny. It was funny.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Francois, tell us your takeaway from this.
Well, the biggest benefit of this time that lockout was for me to be able to see my son every single day and to be able for 2 hours to walk around Paris, which I did reconnect with my son, which because of my traveling, because of my life, I don't see so often. So my 28 years old son was really got close to me, and that's very important to me.
Yeah, that is priceless for sure. And I think we get this confinement allows us to have a lot more family time, which at the end of the day is the most important thing in life. So there's a big silver lining for sure. Priscilla, I wanted to start with you. You have seen a few hurdles in the travel industry over the years, transformations and changes. What lesson can you share with us from your past few years doing this?
Well, you know, in some ways, all crises are the same. They're scary. They're very scary. If you're an employee someplace, you are scared. And if you're an owner, you're scared, but you're even more frightened than anything else. And it is really, really an earth-shattering feeling for a while, having the responsibility of a company and not knowing where you're going. There is something, though, that has a common thread with these past crises, I'll call them. There is a common thread in that we all know who the enemy was. Giving you some example, 9/11, we knew the enemy, so we knew how to take steps. In 2008, when we had a terrible financial meltdown, if you want to call it that, or a collapse, we knew what the cause of it was. And no matter how hard it took to get out of it, we did know the cause. And then we've had also natural calamities other than those man-made ones, like wars and all the rest. Natural calamities. I don't know why, but one that brings up to mind right away was Hurricane Sandy, of which some people are still in some parts of the United States and in the Caribbean still struggling to overcome and have not arrived at the point where they were before that. Here's something different. This is what we're going through now, because what we're going through now distinguishes it from all other ones. It's a very hard thing to say. We don't know who the enemy is, or there's many, many enemies. I call it enemies, meaning the forces that have put us in that situation. So I use the term enemy to shortchange exactly what those things are. You know, if you start, first of all, this pandemic, how little we really know about it. But we know that it has affected the whole world like nothing that we have seen that has affected the world since 1918. And it's the whole world that's in it. You know, if we move a little bit further than that, we have an economy going on and around the world. And certainly we know it in the United States so strongly. We have an economy that is still not even stable enough to really know the depths to which it may go. That's certainly an enemy. Unemployment right now in the United States is higher than it was in the crash of 1929. What do we do about that? Have I told you enough? I mean, is that enough to worry you?
No, for sure. Those that's the reality.
Political divisions, the likes of which this country has probably never experienced as badly as, I don't want to equate it to a couple of Americans, no, but even up to the Civil War and other ones. Oh, don't forget, we have a very important year. We have one of the most important election years that in our lifetimes we will never see or hope to see again go the way it's going and all the problems. And we also know what that means amongst Americans, so we're not going to bother other people about it. I've also heard it's one of the worst tick years that we're ever going to have. And by the way, they're absolutely sure that the hurricanes will be the strongest in many, many years. So, I just want you to know that
it's intense.
We have problems. So what do we do about it? How do we live through this? How do we go to the next stage of what's expected of people to be in business? I hope you enjoyed my little history of past wonderful times. I would like to just, with respect of these two new people that I've met, one of the worst crises was also when the airlines called one day and almost unilaterally got together and said, we don't pay commissions anymore to travel agencies. That was a kind of a high point in my life as well. I can only tell you one thing about it. From those experiences or from those things, strangely enough, some of the best things that ever happened to me owning a company happened as a result of those crises. If you're interested in knowing a couple of ideas of what it was when the airlines literally slashed what we were mostly in business for and where we were making most of our money from. In those days, those hotels were not so great about paying commissions, things like that. So we relied a lot on airline sales. And all the gurus in the industry, all of them said to travel agencies, retail agency, and the true gurus, and you know who they are, get out of selling airline tickets. The airlines will sell them. They know what they're doing. They are not going to pay you. I did the opposite. I I knew the mess in those days. This was I forget the year, I don't remember the year, but this was pre-airlines, where the best they had in those days were 800 numbers, let alone any internet opportunities. And I knew what it was like. And my feeling was somebody's got to jump in and sell airline tickets. I went the opposite way, and I'm positive that there were some people who said, see, she's crazy as I always thought she was. Truth of the matter is, by the time I sold my company, and for many years, the stream of revenue from airline tickets, which by the way, other people changed in years to come, was the largest revenue stream of my total income every year in owning Protravel. The other time, I wrote down, so just because I have to remember those things that really helped me a lot because of
this is very, very useful. I just have to, just for the interest of time, I'm going to go back.
I changed the model of what I sold in two ways. I realized I had to be all things to people. I realized it wasn't like anymore, well, I don't want to deal with them because they want a ticket for their mother-in-law just to go to Florida. And our feeling was, you have to be a total service provider to people. And the last thing I changed when there was one of those, and I do know the one it was, doesn't matter. I changed my model. And while there was a little inklings of such a thing as ICs, independent contractors, I changed people who were salaried people, independent contractors, to change the financial basis and model of how I was going to run my travel agency. And as you know today, that is a major model of retail sales. And those three things all came from being pushed into a crisis situation.
No, and that's exactly the key moment of transformation and thinking out of the box and creating what, as you said, could end up being your biggest source of revenue. So thank you for sharing. Carolyn, I wanted to ask you, Skift means shift, right? Or transformation in Nordic languages. Skift defines itself as the shift into the future of travel. So if I had to imagine who has the crystal ball, I'm thinking it's you guys, right? It's in your definition, but no pressure. So you were launched in 2012, and you have not only become the homepage of the travel industry, but you've really become a source of trusted, intelligence for the industry, a Bible into the future, as I like to call it. So you with a team of over 40 people, you've interviewed, you've analyzed, you have diced the industry over and over for years. And I would love to get your insight. If you look at all the information you've heard and acquired over the years, and you try to step back from it and look at it on a macro kind of view, not looking at the nitty-gritty of the operational changes, but what do you see as an overlying change that's going on and that will continue into the future? Can you share with us?
Yes. And I have to say that, of course, the gardener just came right now. So if it gets loud, let me know. But timing is great. I would say, first of all, we don't make predictions. So we don't have a crystal ball. We do look, like somewhere between 2 to 5 years out. And we do that by, like you said, analyzing, talking to a lot of people and doing our own research. So I would say that there are 4 overarching macro shifts that are happening today that we believe will be here to stay. First and foremost, huge acceleration of technology, right? We've been hearing about tech in the industry for a long time, pre-pandemic, about high tech, high touch. Well, now there's the no touch part of it. But there will definitely be a massive shift to less contact. So you're going to start to see rituals like bypassing the reception desk to check in, keyless entry to open your room door. We've been hearing about it, right? But this is going to become much more mainstreamed. There'll definitely be less paper, right? When you get into those rooms, there's not going to be those brochures and magazines. Those will become non-existent, and everything will be on the app. If you walk into the hotel restaurant, instead of a menu, right? We're going to see that now converted more to technology, to apps. And so I think it's just like any of the little things that can be done to avoid that human touch is going to play an increasingly larger role. The second is this idea of personal privatization. This is really starting to be this movement that's coming up now, which is people who are traveling in smaller groups. Maybe they're going with 1 or 2 families, they're staying with friends in a villa, or they're staying in one place where they are not hopping around, but they're going to team up with the people they love and be in one place. We're also seeing other new concepts emerge, like the concept of air pooling, where a couple of families will team up together. They may not even know each other. It's the travel advisor that will know that there's a couple of their clients that are going to go from one destination to another. Can they put them on a private jet together? Also, Jack, I don't know if he's listening, but Jack Diazan, I know, is really innovating in terms of launching private camps, right? Where he's booking families to go to ranches and bringing camp counselors along. So, I guess the thing is that what is mass travel going to look like? Is it a thing in the past? Are we going to see a lot of tour buses anymore? And I think that tech is the enabler to allow more kind of do-it-yourself models when it comes to tour guides. The third point real quickly is I think corporate travel and meetings will look completely different. It's far more challenged. A company is going to readily send out their employees at a drop of the hat. Meetings, I think that we're going to see this new model that's starting to emerge, hybrid events that it will be part online and part offline. So maybe you'll have an event, but you'll have fewer people there, but you'll have more people online. I think that will be here to stay. And then lastly is this intensification of wellness and design experience. Wellness was hot already, but now it's going to be explosive. Holistic wellness, mind, body, physical, and emotional well-being. And you know, I'm already, when I talk to a lot of travel companies, they're thinking about design experience in a way that's much more tethered to wellness. For example, like how are they going to rethink landscaping? You know, can they provide private spaces where, you know, guests can be more reflective or used for meditation, or the use of gardens, basically pockets of privacy. You know, so we're seeing that, you know, all these wellness offerings is coming, I think, much more faster than we ever imagined because of the anxiety that's coming from our times, and it's going to be here to stay.
No doubt. And though, again, there's some great silver linings in there as well, you know, because the lack of paper, the lack of, you know, it's all a bit more sustainable, and the longer duration of trip, that's also more sustainable. So,
yes.
Right, there is change that's actually for the better, which is nice to see.
No question. No question.
Francois, I wanted to ask you, your hotels in the United States have been closed, have never been closed, sorry. And you're now reopening, which are now reopening the restaurants in the US. During the entire crisis, you have managed to keep all of your staff on board at full salary, which is an exemplary, you know, social conduct. You've also been a benchmark in how you communicate with your guests. You know, you're already being very personal and very custom. You write them notes, you keep in touch, you speak to them almost as if they are a friend, you know, so you have a very close connection as a brand to your clients. So when I look at that list of property, exclusivity, intimate communication, I would dare to say that the Dorchester collection already ticks all the boxes of where the hotels feel they might need to change. So you truly are a benchmark within the industry. However, I would find it difficult to think that there is no change required going forward. So I would be interested to hear from you. What changes do you foresee the Dorchester collection making in this new, you know, new traveler to cater to this new traveler going forward?
Well, first of all, I think that the guests who are really paranoid and hypochondriac will not travel. The people who are worried, the people who are really worried of traveling and they are worried about safety, I don't think they will travel. What I hope really, which is my dream, we have a new world. The world changed so much, and I really think that travel agents are trusted by their clients. Press people, journalists are trusted by their readers. And planes are nearly empty. We have space in our hotels. I think it's time for press, journalists, and travel agents to visit the new world and to come back and be invited by the plane, the carrier, and by the hotels in order to see exactly what we did, in order not to change the aspect of the experience we are selling, just to understand what we did in the back of the house to make our employees safe, of course, and to make sure that all the measure that we take on a sanitary way didn't affect the art de vivre à la française, as we say in France, which is the lifestyle, which is very important, which is the base of what we are selling. When you go to the Beverly Hills or to Dorchester, you have a real experience. We don't want to change that. We don't want to put plastic cover to separate. We want to replace all the measures that we need to do by our government to make sure that that's very followed, but by human. And I disagree with you in some parts. We don't want any iPad and all those things. We want human beings with masks, of course, because the masks are very important in order to protect the employee, but to protect the clients also. But other than the mask, we want really to have humanity there. And I think we have a role. We have most of the hotels, we have 3 employees per rooms, and we want to really send that message of humanity and to be close in order to sell the city where we are at the best level, talking about food, drinks, experience in the spa. And I think that's very important.
For sure. And I think that what you're talking about is a movement that a few of our colleagues are really pushing. Again, we keep mentioning Jack. I think his ears are going to be buzzing. But, Jack and Eduardo Gas are working towards this campaign of Jumpstart Travel. And, we're pushing this Let Travel Ignite Travel. But it is exactly, as you said, the idea of opening the paths of getting out there and showing how it's done. And I'm happy to hear that the Dorchester is also behind that and willing to embrace that concept so that we can have the travel agents be the first ones out there to show it how it's done. So that's fantastic. The next question is for Adriana. Adriana, in your role as president of the advisory board, you're also very much in contact with investors and financial institutions. And I would love to know, have you seen a shift or a change in the criteria and requirements that investors look at companies in order when they're making the decision if to invest or not?
But in fact, investments drivers have been changing for some time. And this is before the pandemic. If you take, for example, in 1994, John Elkington coined the term triple bottom line in his book called Cannibal with Forks. I don't know if you know this book, it's very interesting. But he brought sustainability as a clear reference of the work to do. And then 2 years ago, the Business Roundtable, so the group of the 200 CEOs of the top companies in US, informed that they expanded the proposal of the companies, also favoring their employees, customers, and the communities, meaning all stakeholders. And then the beginning of this year, the annual letter from the CEO of BlackRock confirmed that. So BlackRock is the largest asset manager in the globe with more than $7 trillion under management. And they put sustainability at the heart of the investments policy. Then Davos confirmed this trend, calling it a stakeholder capitalism, meaning that jumping in what Francois said, we are facing for a while, but now it was accelerated by this people crisis called coronavirus, a shift from the traditional business model based on economic factors only for a new business model, a new model considering the ESG. So the E for environment, the S for social, and the G for governance. So these drivers are in the trends in addition to the financial one. ESG has become, yes, an important factor for a company valuation. And why? Because numerous events have shown that looking at the business only from an economic perspective only, this is a myopia that puts the company survival in check. In Brazil, for example, you know very well that we have the example of Vale, the Brazilian mining company that lost billions of dollars and its reputation after the disaster in Brumadinho last year. And more recently, if you look at the financial rescue made by the French government to Air France, that is sustainability KPIs in return. So yes, sustainability is on the top trend for investors and they are looking at it. But now, I think that this pandemic became, the people, in fact, became the most important asset for organizations. And it's important to focus on cash flow. We all agree on that, but it's also on the survival and the health of your employees, your clients, and your community, as Francois just told us. This is a tough decision, and it's much more about values and about transparency than branding. We assume that ESG agenda can occurs in a company in 3 ways: by love, so when the top leadership understands and believes in it; by the pain, when there is a financial loss, a market value loss, a reputation or image loss for not paying attention to it, or by intelligence, when the executives has the vision and really understands that this is a no return point. And for me, this is where I believe that the travel industry needs executives who lead by love and intelligence in order to reinvent and reimagine the travel industry itself, and of course, to attract investments. This is an important point that after the pandemic, we will see a lot of consolidation in the market, a lot of merge and acquisitions. And I think the ESG will be the point that will split investors on investing or not.
It's so nice to hear that, because for so many years, all of this movement of sustainability and social responsibility and all the components of it, whereas you said a marketing thing, and it's important to see that that's if tomorrow that's where the money is, then as we know, money talks, and if that's what investors are looking at, hopefully that'll be the true final driving force for it to stop being a marketing pitch and actually being a force for good. So that's very good news. I think we all can appreciate that. Priscilla, I heard you recently, I think days and months kind of get jumbled in our new lifestyle, but recently you were a guest with another dear friend, Ellen Asmadeo, in the FR panel. And you made a very important point that I think it's worthwhile talking about, which is the fact that you mentioned every product has a shelf life. And I'd love for you to expand on that, because some people that are probably own a startup or a small agency or a small business might be in a very scary moment of questioning, have they reached their shelf life?
You know, I said that with fully understanding that change is very difficult. And you just don't wake up one day and say, I'm going to change things. That's not how it is. There's usually some catalyst that forces you to change. Before that, I think people constantly in a growing company, they tweak at the edges, they nibble here and there, they bring in something else, but the model stays as it is. And truthfully, they're probably stale, and the people who are running the company don't step back to look at that. A friend of mine recently who furloughed all the people he could on his company, stripped his costs down to as low as he could, probably by the middle of April when we were, in the height of what's going on. And he said something very interesting to me. He said, I sat down and I sat back in a chair and I thought, do I like what I'm doing? Yes. If I were starting a company today, and by the way, his company was something like 15 or 17 years old. If I was starting that same kind of a company today, would I be structuring the company the way my company is structured? And I've brought in the latest this and I've changed my technology. But the basic structure, would I start a business like that? And I started to think about it and I thought, what a smart way to look back, to get out of yourself and sit back and say, other than Francois, he can't build a better hotel than the Plaza Athénée. So you can sit back and just enjoy what you have there as this iconic place. But almost all of us never take a moment to step back and say, I run this because I'm in it, rather than can I get out of it and look from another side. I started then to think myself, if I were starting a retail company today, I don't think it would have any semblance to look like what the company was that I did begin and hopefully, built with the help of many wonderful people around me. I think that these crisis moments permit you to reimagine and to rethink things rather than accept where you are. And it could be an exciting moment for most people if they would like to get out of their own skin a little bit, because the industry is going to survive. It's just up to you whether you want to be one of the survivors and one of the people who flourish, because there will be those people.
So nicely put. Very, very true. And it's exciting when you think about transformation and you think about, a possible change, as you mentioned, with excitement. it changes the whole thing. When you say shelf life is scary as hell. But if you think, the question is, when you mentioned that, if I were to open my company again today, would it be the same company? And if not, this is your opportunity to actually have that company as it should be today, right? That's not a bad thing. That's actually a very exciting thing. So very, very well put. So Francois, I wanted to go back and dive back into my benchmark Dorchester collection. They say communication is changing very much during the time that we're living. The vanilla style communication that every company in the luxury travel space, not every, but many utilized, that had similar words of uber luxury, and that didn't really define the principles or their values so clearly. It's probably not going to work in the world that we're about to enter. Or in this new, reality that we're going into. You have had very, very clear. Your communication is been always very clear to your ideals and your principles. So has other industry leaders. We had recently Neil Jacobs speaking about Six Senses, who has also a company with very clear principles and a stance on their values. Can you, if you were to speak to and give a recommendation to other companies that maybe, or other players in the industry that maybe haven't had this advantage of always having such crystal clear values, what would you say? How is communication going to change, and what do people need to focus on?
Well, I'm not here to give any lesson, but I just would like to notice the fact that during that pandemic, we learned something, that's our values at Dorchester Collection. We find out that, exactly as Priscilla was saying, we have an enemy. And because of that enemy that we cannot see, it makes us, all of us in the hotels, with our clients, with our supplier, much more closer. The Zoom meetings that we're doing within Dorchester, like today, put us much more together. I found out that the communication, to answer to your question, really made us stick together through our values, of course, because we are sticking to our values. But the fact of having that enemy in front of us and not being able to catch that enemy made us much more close to each other. This is my personal feeling.
Do you also think, Francois, that as you have this kind of murky picture of what it is we're trying to grasp at, we solve problems, and somehow we can't easily solve this problem of what's going on. But at the same time, we have to look at who is most affected by what's going on in the world and look at who it is. It isn't just the people we've known. There is a rising, strong, younger population of people that everybody in the travel industry is going to have to open their eyes to and be aware of what are the values that they look for. And usually after crisis times, you can look at it historically, things happen after more upheavals, comes enlightenment, comes movements in the arts, comes design changes, and it's very interesting. And none of you can step aside from that and think it's not going to affect you, because it is. And certainly social awareness, social justice, how you treat the world, how you are part of what they want from the world, I think will play on the decisions you make as you go forward as a highly successful, iconic company in the industry.
I agree with you 100%, Priscilla. And we are so lucky in 3 of our hotels to have Alain Ducasse, and Alain Ducasse is trying to push us to eat less meat, to only choose the vegetables around our places, to put less sugar in our dessert, to put less fats, less cream, less butter in most of the desserts, in the sauce. Really, there is a trend for the young crowd, exactly as you mentioned, Priscilla, really to seduce that new crowd, which is strongly believing on changing the way we eat. And this is so true. I agree with you, Priscilla.
And I think also, if I could just add a little more to it,
Please.
you know, when I read about how much of the world is burning up and how things are, and I hate to say Brazil doesn't look very good right now, about the climatic problems that you're having that are affecting the country. This concerns people of where products come from, palm oil, various products that come from places that we question, I think will become more increasingly important to that group of people who are brought up to be worried and concerned about their globe and taking an ownership of what it is they're going to choose and what they're going to do for the future.
I think
Priscilla,
you're right.
it's very challenging for us. It's to keep the balance between our habits. For example, when you take a club sandwich or even an hamburger, you want a slice of tomato. Where does the tomato come from when it's not the season in your country? Look at the wave of avocado toast. There is no avocado who grow in England or in France. So they come from Peru, so they fly or they come by boat. But in property like us, with guests that you send us who are so rich, I'm gonna say no avocado toast at the plaza. So that's a challenge. So we need to keep the balance between the habits and what's the trend is pushing us to.
True.
I think it is a challenge for sure, and I think we discussed this earlier, but there are ways to do it in order to just highlight what the purpose is. And of course, I agree with you in all of your, beautiful maisons and incredible palaces. Saying no to a client is almost unheard of. This is part of our DNA. The client is king. The client is right. You cannot say no. However, I think in the world of tomorrow, there is space to say yes. We do have it. However, we would like to promote our local specialties and consider these options as our. But yes, I agree with you that saying no is a faraway reality from our industry. But maybe we can reduce the number of people choosing those products, by giving them a new path. I know it's not easy, but it's a start. It's a start. I agree. It's a tough one. But I love the discussion. That's the best part of the whole thing. Carolyn, I want to go back to you. And I thought long and hard of what can I ask you? Because you've been interviewing, as I mentioned before, the greatest, and it's just, incredible to have you here. And so I thought I'd ask you the hardest questions of all. And what question should we be asking you? In a way, what are people not talking about that we should be talking about? You are in a position that you have so much information and so much access. And I wonder if there is a movement that we're not seeing that you can highlight and that we can give it light in this panel. So what question should I be asking you? What do you want to answer?
Yeah, I think, well, it's a loaded question. And I think the question that's rarely asked is, where is the diversity in the travel leaders in our industry, right? We are, what is it, the third largest industry in the world. And it's made up of people like us, right? We love to travel. We go out and experience in the world. We're curious. We want to be open-minded to new cultures and interact with people who are different than us, right? And so we can come back and be richer from all these diverse experiences. But I think what I think really kind of isn't asked is, why does the leadership at the very top of our industry all look the same, right? Like, where are the people of color? Where are the women? Where is the next generation of leaders? And I have to say, at Skift, we are putting together 5+ conferences a year globally. And we always start in the same place. We sit down with a blank piece of paper And our goal, the lens we look through, is how can we get the most diverse people on the stage to represent the industry we're in and the world that we're living in. And the most challenging thing for us to do is to find diverse leadership in our very own industry. So I think the question we need to be asking moving forward is, how can we actively challenge the status quo and put more women, put more people of color into leadership and power positions? At Skift, we, from the very, inception of our company, this is part of our mantra. And, personally, I, for the last 20 years, mentor young women, which is a big, give back, and I love and enjoy doing that. But I really think that we need to act now, and we have to pave the way to create diverse leadership that mirrors the world that we so love to travel in.
Well,
Yeah,
Caroline, if I may say something, first of all, I am the only man in that panel. Second thing, we have a general manager at the Bel Air, general manager Zoe at Coworth Park, a general manager at the Maurice. The manager of the Plaza is a lady. Lady are present, but we didn't hire them because they were lady. We hired them because they were the best to do the job we asked them to do. So it's not the feminism who pushed us to hire those lady, our incredible lady. It's just because they were the best at the time we were looking for.
Yes, and we were honored to have some of your general manager of Maurice actually on our stage, and she's amazing and wonderful person.
Completely.
But I just sat in on an NYU hospitality panel 2 days ago, and here you have the 6 largest hospitality chains, and they all the CEOs look exactly the same, right? So I love that you have women in place, and I agree with you that you want to have the best person in charge. And it's not about feminism. You look at the racial bias that has happened, and not everyone has the same opportunities, right? So I think it's up to us. Travel is the one industry out of every industry in the world that is a mosaic of cultures, and we appreciate the way everyone looks so different from one another. So I feel like we can take this leadership position if we all come together and we take it seriously and realize that this is not a sprint, this is a marathon, and it's time for us to put change in place.
Can I have to say
Please
something?
do. Please.
Since leaving the travel, but I haven't left. I've got my interests and everything in the travel industry. But I'll say my time and my heart has been very devoted to higher education, and I serve on boards of higher education and spend a good deal of time thinking exactly of the subject that you bring up, Carolyn. And in the school world, it's called DEI, which is a paramount subject for discussing everything. But before I explain exactly what it is, it's going to happen anyway. It's just going to happen. It's going to be taken from the industry as people of color, people of brown, black, different backgrounds are grabbing the moment. It stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there is not a single school that isn't devoted to that. And the students are committed in many ways to demand that of industries. Industry is not going to change. It's going to be people coming in who are going to demand those change. And it is about time. It is about time.
Yeah, I'm so happy I asked that question. I did such a good job. Perfect question, Carolyn. And on that note, I think it's perfect. I know Adriana has been working very passionately on a project. It's her brainchild, and I think it's a perfect sequence onto Carolyn's own question and answer. I would love for you to talk to us about MUST and why you're working on it and why now.
Thank you very much, Tina, for this question, and thank you, Carolyn, to put things in a very beautiful way, because it's exactly that. We also have to mention that we have different contexts by country, by continent. We are not facing the same kind of diversity here in Brazil, the same way we are living it in Europe, or it's a different because of the culture. But anyway, yes, we have a newborn in the house that's called Must. Is the name for Mulheres do Setor de Turismo. So it's in Portuguese because it's really local. We are the first platform in the travel industry in Brazil created by women who work or have worked in the travel industry for women working in this industry. We are 6 female co-founders, and our the proposal of this project is to encourage women in tourism to develop their careers, assuming decision makers' positions and contributing to the transformation and sustainability of the sector, especially now. Our aim is to impact positively people and organizations too. We based the project in the exchange of experiences. So Carolyn, please come to Brazil to mentor, to become a mentor. Please, it will be so nice for us. And we created this platform to collaborate with the self-knowledge, the development, and the employability of these women, because this is a real problem right now with the pandemic on the travel industry too. We have 40% more women unemployed than men in the travel industry in Brazil right now. So is as well to promote and a more inclusive environment. This is our aim. And we have 4 pillars: evolution, optimism, action, and collaboration. And we truly believe, Tina, that diversity is a powerful tool of innovation and transformation. And this is key for a better performance and sustainable organizations. This is what we believe. So please follow us on Instagram. It's @BRMust. We are going to have a lot of different actions, and the basic of this platform is the mentoring program that we're going to launch it soon.
No, it's an amazing platform and a great initiative, and I think the mentorship it's just a great way to donate your time and to help. And so you have my support, and if I can be involved in any way, please, I'm happy to do so. And it's true that, you know, I do make an effort to have a panel that is very representative of the industry and of women. So our next panel is going to be, not unfortunately, but it is an all-male panel, just like my last panel was an all-woman panel. So it is a mixture of you know, men and women, but I do agree with Adriana. It's very cultural. Mexico is going through and has been going through a horrible, horrible reality with women. It's tragic to the point that they had a very strong movement just before the coronavirus, that they had a day of everybody staying at home and turning off the lights and not working in protest of the violence and the murdering of women just because they're women. So it is very, very violent. And though in our little circle here, in our little bubble, it looks all fine and dandy, it's not really the case if we really look beyond this very comfortable place that we're living. So thank you both, everybody, for highlighting this. I think it's so important. And on that note, I wanted to end by asking you again the same question. If everybody that is listening to us were to forget everything we said, which would be tragic, but let's imagine, you know, if they did, what would be your one message that you would like them to take away and to remember? It could be personal, it could be professional, it doesn't matter, but just something that they can hold on to end of the week, Friday, and they can go home with a little gift from each one of you, a message to take home. And Francis, I'll start with you. Francois.
I would say, don't get carried away with all those procedures regarding sanitary. Don't forget about the human touch. So it's so easy to put plastic against the two of us, but please just make sure that your eyes smiles and send love to everyone. I think it's very important.
I agree. And I love that when we spoke earlier, you said that, what was the thing you missed the most?
Oh, yes, that's so true. Yes. What I mean, what I really miss the most, it's the hug. I cannot shake hand to anybody. I cannot hug anybody. When I was at Virtuoso, I could hug people. It's so great to hug people. I feel so lonely not to be able to touch any more human beings. So sad.
Yeah, that will come back. And it's what I always tell when I had, old friends. I always say, look, I'm going to warn you before you see me. You can lather yourself all in this sanitary thing because I'm going to hug. And then we can have a quick shower or something. But I agree with you. It's so important. So please make sure before we meet, we cover ourselves and whatever is needed, because we definitely have to keep that love going for sure. Carolyn, what is your message?
Well, I would say, here, listen, in America, we are in the midst of a nightmare. It's horrendously mismanaged pandemic, and now it's compounded by this obvious realization of a culture ridden with just, tons of inequality, racial inequality. So I feel compelled, given this, this sad state of affairs in my country, that the takeaway is that we need to fight for more justice. We need more equality. We need more human rights. And I'd add in, we need more love, right? And I'm a hugger too, Francois and Tina. And, I think that in this whole do not waste a crisis moment that we're living in, we have the power to change history if we take action to change it. And I'm really, through all the darkness, I'm really excited about the hope ahead of us, and and seeing everyone all over the world coming together. We have the power to change it, and we will, and we are, and it just takes time. And I can't wait to get back out on the road and to travel and hug my way through the world.
Thank you. It's nice that we're also hugging. Adriana, tell us your takeaway.
Okay, so Priscilla already told us, and I fully agree with her. And I also believe that you learn 10 times more in a crisis than in normal times. So I love this quote that seems to be anonymous. So I tried to find it on internet, the author, but I didn't find it. So that says, it's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. So we started this webinar dancing. So I think it's a good image.
Love it, for sure. You have to dance always. Very beautifully said. Priscilla, I want you to take it away. I want you to hear your message and, your voice and your experience and your wisdom. I don't know if you realize the impact this has. So anyway, I'm a fan, so go ahead.
With that introduction, here's my small thought. I'm going to make a promise. You will never, never hear me say again, a restaurant is too noisy or too crowded. I will.
Very nicely put. I wanted to thank all of you once again. I value this time, as I told all of you in the organization. This is my favorite moment of this crazy coronavirus reality that we're living. But being able to unite each one of you and exchange this moment of energy and ideas is so valuable. And I appreciate you taking the time from your busy schedules. And I can hear the feedback from those, joining us, how positive and how important these minutes together are. So thank you again so much. I wanted to go ahead and just highlight, we have another amazing panel Friday, and it's going to be on Asia time. So it won't be at our usual time. We're going to have Toby Smith, CEO. He's actually deputy chairman of Swire Hotels. He's based in Hong Kong. So we're going to do it on Friday evening. We're going to have James McBride, a very dear friend who I've known for many years, joining us, CEO of Nehi Hotels. We have Sergio Lozano, who was the founder of Lozano Travel, now managing director of Nuba in Mexico, and Peter Greenberg from CBS News also joining us. So it's going to be a great panel. Stay tuned. For those on YouTube, Please subscribe. You'll get all the information directly from our YouTube channel. For those on Facebook or here on Zoom, join us back. And don't forget, we have a series of master classes that we're offering also for tools to help everybody get past this storm. So make sure you listen in with great teachers. And again, thank you, Francois. Thank you, Priscilla, Caroline, Adriana. Muito, muito obrigada. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Hugs, hugs, hugs.
Bye-bye.
Merci beaucoup.
Wow.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Au
Bye-bye.
revoir.